Good morning. Good morning. It is December 7th, and we are here at Harvested Financial taking a look at the markets. Just a quick reminder to check out our website for all of our disclosures, and you'll find tons of other great information there. I'll give a plug to our resource center where we're putting out tons of interesting content about option strategies, how to think about them, and how to approach the markets. But today, what are we looking at? We are looking at a relatively calm open. I feel like I've said that the last couple of days in a row, but it has been relatively placid in the markets out there. I'm looking at SPY down around 86 cents, coming off all-time highs on Friday. 23 basis points of a drop doesn't really shake us that much. IWM is effectively flat, and the Qs are up 26 basis points or 80 cents. So relatively calm Monday morning out here. Vol continues to drip out. So we are going to look at some interesting names in the single name sector. The name that I want to pull up this morning is PayPal. And PayPal has been one of those names that has started to get a little bit crypto curious. So PayPal has started accepting investors to purchase Bitcoin. Now, you're relatively limited, is my understanding, in that if you buy your Bitcoin through PayPal, you can only keep it in that PayPal wallet. However, this is one of those major financial institutions that's now coming out and getting a lot more active in this crypto space. So how can we play this name? We've seen a lot of volatility. We've seen an enormous share price rise. So what are we thinking about here? And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because that's the thing I love to do here is show you guys how to make plays and options. So I'm going to pull up my TradeHawk, which is the Tradier brokerage options interface. Great partners of ours, so check them out. But PayPal, I'm going to pull up PayPal, and actually to kind of set up the case here, I mentioned at the very beginning how much volatility is coming. And implied volatility really continues to drip out of the market as a whole, but actually even more specifically here in PayPal. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit on the end here and pull up, this yellow line that I'm looking at here is the stock chart. So the stock chart is going up and to the right. We've seen them the last month. They went from 180 all the way down here. They're up at 215. So stock's been doing great. But let's talk about the implied volatility. And the implied volatility, I like to look at the 30-day. I'm gonna pull up my close to close and show that on top of it. So the close to close is this red line. So that's actually the historical volatility. But what I'm looking at in terms of implied volatility is this 30-day line here. So starting in November, you've heard me say it before, elections took a lot of volatility out of the marketplace. So, we're looking at vol up there in the 50s. Did see a bunch of activity. The historical vol kept going up, and a lot of that is actually due to share price rise. But we've seen a long decline all the way down here, and it continues to drip despite the fact that stock continues to go up. So we're seeing implied volatility really leak out of the market. Implied vol is only around 35 right now. So this might be an opportunity to continue to play Bitcoin from the long vol side. Owning options can be a really good play, especially as those options prices get cheaper. But we probably want to play a little bit of a directional bent here. If you're long that Bitcoin thesis, if you like the idea that PayPal is going to be one of those financial leaders that is driving the sort of assimilation of cryptocurrencies into the mainstream, then let's talk about how to play long vol and bullish PayPal. So I'm going to get a little bit long vol. I'm going to look out to January 15th. So we got 39 days, 40 days, the 39 exactly, I should say. So we're at that 38 vol level. That's what I'm looking at right there. So 38 vol, right here at the money, our at the money 220 straddle, pretty beefy. So about 1150 and 1030. That means we're like 2180 on the straddle. So almost 10% of the stock price, not exactly a cheap straddle. So your options to get long volatility, naively spend, 21.80, almost $22, and buy that. Okay. What if we can do something a little bit more interesting here? So I'm going to look at, we like the idea of getting long vol. So I'm going to buy these. I'm going to buy two of them in a sort of straddle setup. And I'm going to show two different options here. So to sort of give ourselves that, bullish direction, instead of doing an even butterfly, I'm going to actually go all the way up here and sell this 230. So I got the 210, 220, 250 on. And so I am short the 210 call, long 2 of the 220s, and short 1 of the 250s. What pulling that 250 all the way up there, even would have been the 230 level, but pulling it all the way up to 250 means that I get that much more room to run if this does have that sort of bullish tilt still. So we're going to enter this trade. We are getting long volatility, and we are giving ourselves that bullish direction. So this still actually is going to be a debit trade. So we're going to spend about 270 at the mid. If we want to take the offer, it's 330. So there's 60 cents of price improvement potential in there. That's a lot of price improvement potential. So be careful when you're executing in something like this. But the idea is to give ourselves some bullish direction. And you'll see that right here when I blow this up. And, that direction right there is our bullish tilt. Now, all the way down here is where we're going to lose the money from being long volatility. If PayPal just sits here and doesn't move at all, we're going to see these options decay. Those 220 lines that we're long 2 of, or that 220 line that we're long 2 of, is just going to sit there and all the gas is going to deflate out of it. So that would give us our max loss of $1,200. To the way downside, we have our loss of a little over 200, that 257 level. If we pay that on entry, that's our debit price. That's our max loss on the downside. But we want that bullish direction. We want to see that 1,800 winner if PayPal goes above that short strike at 250 where we sold. So all the way starting at just over 230, we're going to start breaking even. So, we do need to see at least a $10 rise in share price for this to start paying off. But from 230 all the way up to 250, it's just money, 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 just straight vertical up there, and that's the power of those two options that you're long. So they end up getting capped on the short side there, but really some room to go if you are bullish on Bitcoin and want to take advantage of potentially cheap volatility. If you're not quite that bullish and you actually might want to pull in that number a little bit, I'm gonna break this wing a little bit, and instead I'm gonna sell this one. So what happens if we pull that down? If we give ourselves a little bit more downside? Now we're actually going to enter into this trade for a credit. So we're going to receive money up front. I'm going to blow this up. So, we're going to receive money up front. That means we actually have even more to lose if it sits here. So before we were looking at a $1,200 loss, this is actually closer to a $1,600 loss. And that's because we've taken in a little bit less money at the beginning. So not only have we flipped this from debit to credit, we're actually taking in money instead of paying it out. So the idea that we are collecting money, we do have that to potentially lose if we just sit here and decay. However, by giving ourselves that little extra risk on movement means that downside movement, we also profit. So previously we were going to lose the debit payment, but now we actually could make the credit if we're willing to take on a little bit more risk of it sitting here. So now that's going to require a move of up little over 230, around 235, where we break even, and then we break even to the downside, right around 205. So we have a pretty big window where we need to see movement. This is a $220 stock, and we are still trading at a 40 implied vol, and we have 40 days. So we do need a decent amount of movement for this to break even. But if we see some running in this PayPal name, taking money at the outset of the trade, taking on a little bit of risk for it truly sitting here and upping our max loss, does allow us to now make money on the downside additionally. So a lot of things to think about here in PayPal. They are continuing to be one of those active names. A lot of investors are using this as a proxy to speculate on Bitcoin adoption. In the equity options marketplace, we don't have an amazing vehicle to speculate on the exact price of Bitcoin. So a lot of players are looking at names like PayPal, MSTR, MicroStrategies as possible proxies for Bitcoin adoption overall. We're looking at a lot of different things here in the market at Harvested Financial. Tune in every day to Daily Bread for some trade ideas. Check us out on our Twitter at harvested_DAFE. Derivatives are for everyone. We've got model portfolios. We've got individual names. We've got a lot of really interesting strategy execution as a service here at Harvested. So check us out. And thanks again for tuning in.